Now, it's likely that you've seen hundreds of videos online claiming to know the reasons behind why your home feels cheap. Whether it's because of fake plants, short curtains, or small rugs, it seems everyone's got a list. But after years of designing homes, I've realized that it all comes down to really just 4 simple laws, which I'm going to coin as the 4 Ds. And I'm fairly confident that once you know these, you'll never see design the same way again. Now, before you go slamming your laptop shut, I have to get this out of the way. Because the word cheap seems to trigger a lot of people's insecurities, like I'm somehow saying that expensive homes are somehow better. But that's the exact opposite of the point that I'm trying to make, as an expensive home can still look cheap if it's designed the wrong way, and a cheap home can look expensive if it's designed the right way. The power isn't in the price tag, it's in understanding the reasons why. The first of these 4 laws is dishonesty. Now take a look at these 2 apartments. They both follow a similar aesthetic, but for some reason, one just feels worse. Granted, the lighting and the time of day is nicer in one than the other, and one has more plants and the other has less, but this isn't what's setting the other living area apart. Because what's setting it apart is that the materials it uses are honest. This is the first big contributing principle of what makes a space look cheap: material dishonesty, which is when you include items or finishes in your home that are pretending to be something that they're not. Fake plants instead of real ones, generic prints versus real painted canvas, wood effect versus real wood. When materials feel fake, the entire space loses its credibility. And so embracing honesty is a key characteristic of expensive feeling homes versus cheap ones. But don't think that this means you have to go ahead and blow your life savings on marble countertops and hardwood floors. Take the Eames molded plastic chair. This is one of the most iconic chairs of the 20th century, but it's not made out of mithril, it's made from plastic. The key difference is that it celebrates being plastic. It's not trying to be something that it's not, it just is. And this is a big reason as to why such a product can be loved by so many. Now, granted, plastic's not really my style, but the point is that in many homes, even plastic can look premium if it's designed honestly. But what if you want a certain material that's simply out of your budget? As, at least to me, the best looking homes look expensive mainly because they are expensive, using materials such as marble, stone, oak, and walnut. And sometimes you simply can't get certain looks without some sort of fakery, which is where the nuance of this rule comes in, which is, if you're going to fake it, you had better do it well. Printed walnut laminate, probably a step too far, but dark stained rubber wood or pine, that's not so bad. Walnut veneer, that's even better. The key is, if you can tell it's fake without a trained eye or a magnifying glass, the game's up. For instance, things like oak veneer tables or hollow core doors, they feel cheap because you have to interact with them, and usually their weight and audio cues tend to reveal their true nature, which is hiding behind their compelling exterior. But on the flip side, cheaper stained woods aren't pretending to be something they're not at all, and veneered MDF, with carefully matched grain patterns, both looks and feels premium because it's much harder to tell that it's hiding something when compared to lightweight particle board. This same thinking applies to things like fake plants or art too. If they're made poorly or they're placed prominently enough to reveal their true identity, it's this that makes it feel cheap. And I think it goes without saying that this kind of thing is only made worse when they're paired with obviously mass-produced items like ceramic plant pots. So if you want your home to look more premium, first perhaps consider how honest it's actually being. And if it's not being honest, just know that the problem isn't actually with the lie itself, it's in the finding out that you've been lied to. So either do it well or don't do it at all. Don't quote me on that one. The second law is disproportion, and this is one of the easiest ways to make an otherwise beautiful space feel off. With this law, the problem isn't your furniture's honesty, quality, or material, it's its size. When you purchase an item, you do so to fulfill a certain function. Curtains cover windows, rugs cover floors. But when an item feels like it's cutting corners, it just feels a bit yuck. It's really the same sensation you get around fake materials, and this is because your brain can subconsciously tell that it's being cheated. The living room where the curtains don't quite meet the floor, the rug that floats in the middle of the space, the random brightly coloured cushions on your sofa. These things are all half committed. The curtains, they want to cover the full length of the wall. The rug wants to reach underneath your furniture, and the random pops of colour want to be a part of a wider, more intentional whole. But for whatever reason, somewhere along the line, someone decided to order a size down. Now, here I'm talking about buying items that are too small, which usually happens because, let's be honest, it's usually cheaper. But don't go away thinking that this can't also work the other way around too, with the sectional that swallows the entire room, or the dining table that leaves absolutely no space to move around it. The key thing to understand here is that good design either lives or dies by scale and rhythm. Furniture should fit a room a bit like how clothing fits a person. Looking good is almost never about the price, it's about how your clothes fit. And so when looking at your home or deciding on a new furniture piece, take a step back and check the balance. And before we move on, as a quick caveat, I have to point out that exaggerated scale can work, but only when it's intentional and consistent. For instance, a large chandelier in a tall room can feel dramatic, or a massive canvas on a clean wall can bring a focal point to a room that doesn't have one. But when one element goes oversized while everything else is fighting against it, it doesn't feel bold, it feels accidental. And so perhaps just like with your wardrobe, it might not be that your home is suffering from bad taste, but instead just bad sizing. The third law is deficiency. Now, this is what happens when a room isn't bad per se, it's just boring. Everything matches, everything's neutral, and somehow nothing feels alive. Now, you've probably seen this before in the matching furniture set in a furniture showroom, with the matching rug, the matching curtains, and the matching side tables. These rooms are safe, they're tidy. I'd even go as far as saying that in some ways, they're perfect. But despite being cohesive, they also feel incomplete, like someone left you hanging halfway through a sentence. If this is your home, I want to reassure you, don't feel bad, because I had exactly the same approach to design for years, and many architects and designers still struggle with this. As just like with the trend towards minimalism a few years back, this desire for cohesion is a response to the vast majority of people suffering with the exact opposite problem, incohesion. And what many people don't understand is that the fix isn't more clutter, nor is it absolute uniformity. It's in contrast. What you need is layers, color, texture, tone, and light, matte mixed with gloss, rough mixed with smooth, light mixed with dark. But just make sure that you follow the rules. For whatever reason, our brains are made to like certain combinations of colors and certain groupings of objects. And I could go on and on about color science and Gestalt theory, but without going into professor mode as to why this actually is, when it comes to colors, it's best to create contrast using analogous or neighboring colors to create contrast, or by using complementary or opposing ones to create contrast, which is based on their position within the color wheel. And when you can, try and group objects together so that they read as a single and less overwhelming entity. And when you do this, try to do this in groups of 3 or other higher odd numbers, as this resists symmetry and creates visual appeal through imbalance. And what this does is help your space feel a little bit less structured and rigid. And so all of this just goes to say that richness and contrast doesn't just come from more stuff, it comes from precision. And really, in our homes, when you understand this, it makes the solution quite simple. If your room feels lifeless, add contrast, texture, or asymmetry. If it feels chaotic, strip it back until what's left feels considered and intentional. This richness that you want, in the end, isn't actually visual, it's emotional. Every space needs some tension, a play between opposites. It needs contrast, and contrast creates variety and rhythm. And variety and rhythm are what give a space its life. The fourth law is disorder. Now, this is what happens when a space doesn't feel calm or lifeless, it feels restless. There's simply way too much to look at or notice, and nowhere for the eye or the mind to rest. Now, I know for a fact that everyone can relate to this one, as you've seen it before in the kitchen countertop that's covered in appliances, or the open shelves that are stuffed full of random objects or meaningless decor. And it's usually not that the owner doesn't care, it's actually the opposite. There's an innate desire within us to fill every gap in order to stop our homes from feeling incomplete, and then hold on to things far longer than we actually should do. And instead of enriching our homes, it actually ends up just feeling overbearing. The crux of this problem is that, much like a good soundtrack, good design isn't about how loud you can be or how much you can say. The power is in how little you can say and yet still be heard. And the way that good spaces in real life do this is by concealing what's not important through abundant yet discreet storage. Built-in furniture and closets, or standalone cupboards and sideboards that complement the overall arrangement. Storage plays a huge role in how well designed your home ends up feeling. But even this by itself isn't enough, as once you have these items in place, you need systems. Places for objects to belong, and then the motivation to regularly declutter and reassess in order to avoid them from taking over again. If you want your home to feel like it's designed well, the goal is to limit what's visible to what has purpose, whether that's because of its function or its value. Curating and grouping items to create rhythm and not noise, finishing each composition with one focal point, one story, and not 5 competing ones. Now, what I'm not saying is that you need to live like a monk or to try to look like you do. Some of your items should be visible, as they give personality and warmth, but the key is balance. Alternate between both open and closed storage. Let display areas breathe, and then let storage do all of the heavy lifting. And what you'll notice in well-designed homes is that shelves function a bit like punctuation in a sentence, and not the whole paragraph. And so for this fourth law, as an easy rule of thumb, if your room feels chaotic, start hiding things. Use doors, drawers, baskets, and cable management to restore some calm. But if it starts to feel sterile, reveal a few treasured objects that show who you truly are. Because when this is done right, it becomes storytelling and not clutter. And it's this that makes a home feel premium. And so there you have it, the 4 Ds: dishonesty, disproportion, deficiency, and disorder. And if you can remember these, you'll find that almost every design mistake you see in a home comes back to one of these 4 points. And really, the one takeaway that I hope you get from this video is that good design isn't about perfection or the price tag. It's about truth, balance, confidence, and calm. And if you can master this, your home won't just look good, it will feel good to live in too. But speaking of calm, a practical way to start upping your organization skills in daily life is with your everyday carry, where the sponsors of today's video, Bellroy, make this effortless, with their expertly designed bags, wallets, and organizers that optimize your daily essentials for work, travel, and more. Now, what makes Bellroy different is that function-first design is in their DNA, as pioneers in the space of space-saving everyday carry. And they have clean, tailor-made solutions for almost every lifestyle or activity, with clever touches that make things like work or travel just that extra bit more enjoyable. This is why I almost exclusively use their products when I'm on the go, whether it's a sling bag for my phone and water bottle, a backpack or a messenger bag for my laptop, or a suitcase during my travels. And thanks to their clean designs and impressive functionality, it makes them great gifts for the holiday season too. So check out Bellroy and get 10% off your entire purchase using my link in the description below. But finally, thank you so much for watching, especially if you made it all the way to the end. And if you enjoyed this video, you might also enjoy this next one too.